You ready to go or not?
We are loading now.
Deb is gone, isn't she?
Yeah, we'll go over that.
Darn. And Eric, nobody can find.
Okay, I believe we are live.
Tell me when to go.
Go ahead.
All right. In looking at the minutes, which were half a year ago, do we have an approval of the, well, first approval of the agenda, but first I'm going to have approval of the March 12th minutes. Any questions? All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, we will then have that, the minutes approved as presented. Approval of the agenda. That's new. Do we need to approve the agenda? I have never come on that end, but that's fine. If we wish to approve the agenda, does anyone have any questions about the agenda?
Or anything to add?
Pardon me,
Or anything to add?
anything to add to the agenda? I don't find.
Did everyone get the second agenda that's updated?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
everyone get the updated agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, then they will be as presented. Do we need a motion on that? I never heard of this, but go ahead. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion. Approve the
All right.
agenda.
All right, any more questions about it? Anyone nay on this matter? Then we will approve it as accepted. In the minutes that we had, I did notice in the minutes that we had from March that Robin Hunt organized a tree planting event with the Sierra Club on Freeman Avenue in Queensgate, and they are the replacement trees. It has, of course, almost no trees, but it is a priority neighborhood. And has anybody been down there to see if they're, I can, run down there someday, but those things, they have a very short life sometimes down on Freeman Avenue.
So Robin Hunt was organizing the tree planting, and then COVID hit and the project was canceled until next year.
Okay, I wondered. Until next year.
Yeah, these are just the minutes from the last meeting. So
Yes,
As of that point, he was still working on planning it out.
I talked to Robin yesterday, but I talked to him, or 2 days ago, but I talked to him out my top window. And as he said, that they've been taking out, putting back in, only one has been removed. And I wondered if you, of course, we haven't had anything happening at all, and community councils just have not met, as far as I understand. So did that also go on hold?
Yes, we have not met with any community councils in regards to urban forestry at this point.
Okay.
So the plan would be, once we have the urban tree canopy assessment, that's when we'll do.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about.
The community council, if they go virtual, they have, yeah, the board.
Does have.
Virtually.
Well, that was one of our, we were hoping to work with community councils to increase our reforestation in some areas, or to add to what is there. Or sometimes removal happens and a new tree doesn't. So that was part of the problem we were discussing at the time. Don Ginley.
Yes.
Where do we stand on some of the matters that you and I had previously discussed with, about some people like Caroline and some replacements like that.
I am not sure. I seen a letter from the manager with the minutes approving certain board members, but I don't know about the replacements.
Um,
I can touch on that in a little bit.
okay, because you had a replacement idea, didn't you?
So I will touch on that.
All right.
Before the natural resources.
All right. Okay. Just some questions I have as I was reading this over yesterday. Monthly report, April to August. Please go.
So again, as we send these reports out, they're very lengthy. It's basically giving a breakdown of all of urban forestry operations for all of the districts, as well as our GIS person. So if you guys have any questions about anything that you see in these reports, feel free to speak now. Otherwise, that's all the information is there, unless you would like to discuss.
I didn't see, did anyone see anything here that would be questionable, or? I did not when I looked it over yesterday.
I will say some of the items that are in the reports, I have pulled out and will be discussing in greater detail throughout the agenda.
Okay. West District, North District, Kurt Kastner, let me ask, how is he? Do we know?
He's doing great. So Kurt had shoulder surgery. He's out for the next month. Kurt is our North District forester, if you're not aware. But he's doing great, and he's still covering most of his operations administratively from home.
I know.
And then our forestry techs, Doug and Phil, are covering his field operations while he's out. So
Normally, Kurt brings my packet back to me, and it was Robin. And I said, so where is Kurt these days? Is he okay? Well, not really.
yeah.
So that's how I learned of that. Do you want to say anything right now on the monthly activity report?
No, I just have a few things to cover in the report of the natural resource manager that was not included in this agenda. So just some quick updates.
Okay. Well, monthly reports for April through August. If nobody has any questions about those are just information. We don't vote on those. So if there are any more questions on the monthly activity reports, April through June, and then September.
Oh, yeah, that was the last minute. It's not on the agenda, but it is. included.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah. it's on the agenda.
CDC. When I looked through here, I didn't see anything. The bike lane is coming to Kellogg. The bike lane is on the east side. I go over there about every 2 weeks in that area, and there's people using it.
Yeah.
There's people using that. In one place, it's very, very close to us, to the edge of the street, but there was a mother and 2 little kids over there on the bike lane the other day. Okay, if there's nothing more on the monthly reports, we will proceed to you.
Okay, so just be relatively brief. So at the end of March, all forestry board members that had been serving were reappointed. Since then, Deb Zurich has retired, and we are seeking a replacement for her position. Eric Debke has not come to any of our meetings in the past since the beginning of the year. The last time he came was at the end of last year, and since then we have not been able to get a hold of him. So I'm going to suggest that we find a replacement for his position as well,
Yes.
so that we can fill the board. The one, for Deb's position, I did reach out to Scott Borline and Steve Foltz to see if they knew of anyone else in their ranks that could join the board. And Scott graciously stepped up to offer his services and dedication to the city urban forest. So in the packet, we included his resume and his letter of intent. From my understanding of the municipal code, appointments to the board are not voted on by the board. They are rather recommended to the city manager who appoints them.
That's correct.
So if there's any discussion around that, I'm happy to have it now, but my recommendation is going to be that we appoint Scott Borline to serve as the green industry professional position on the board.
He doesn't, as an employee of the city, he does not have to live in Cincinnati, but he does work here.
He works with Cincinnati Zoo.
That's what. He lives in Northern Kentucky, I think, doesn't he?
Where he lives, Anderson Township.
Anderson Township. Okay. Any conversation on that?
I'd definitely like to make a motion to approve him for the board, knowing well.
Very good.
I'll second that motion.
Good resume. Only half filled out resume. I know more than that.
Oh, we'll have to know your secrets. Any further discussion? All in favor? You want to hide your eyes?
Aye.
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 Aye and aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You can be kind of interesting on occasion.
Great to have you.
So my next step in the bureaucratic process is to take this to the director, make the recommendation to the city manager, and then it'll be official, and I will communicate that hopefully by our next board meeting. So that leaves the other green industry position vacant that Mr. Eric Duffy had filled. So if anyone has any ideas or recommendations for that position, please let us know and we can move it forward.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Raina, you know him better than anyone on this board. Have you had any contact? Is there any, I mean, he's disappeared.
I tried to get in touch with him, if you remember, before we reappointed the board. And I told you, he showed up at that December or so meeting about
Yep.
then. But every phone number I had, his business number, I left messages on his business number, which I assume is in Hyde Park. I know where he lives, but I didn't drive out there, and no, I had no contact with him until he showed up at our meeting.
Well, the little place where he kept up above in Hyde Park Square,
That's right.
is empty now. And he's just disappeared from what we understand. So I don't know. If he is not responding to us in 6 or 8 months, I think we should be looking for a replacement. He was, according to our places that have to be filled, our slots, he is green industry, if I recall. Was that not so?
He lives out in Brown County,
He does.
but I haven't driven out there to see if I can track him down. No.
Well, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to track down a member. You either wish to continue on the board and state that in some manner, or you do not. I mean, you should do it that way. So I think unless there's any opposition there too, I think we should be looking for another green industry. And Raina, you might know persons to recommend, because you have been working in that field for decades, or anyone else who knows green industry as such.
Yeah, definitely put your feelers out and let me know if you come up with anything. If we do get a recommendation between our next board meeting, I will go ahead and attempt to have both recommendations on one letter to the city manager, just to streamline the bureaucracy. is my goal.
Okay.
Okay,
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Yeah.
What are you looking for in this slot or this person on the board?
The green industry is a person who works in that particular field. They don't have to own the business. They can be employed in that business, but they don't have to own the business. It just so happens Reno does. And also, so did Eric. But you don't have to own the business.
No, you just have to, so basically a green industry representative is somebody that is going to provide the board with more a professional stance on how urban forestry should be managed, different policies that could be created. They should also be invested in the city, representative of the city or a community that we currently don't have represented on the board.
Right.
As well as the age and diversity piece. You know, it's all those things should be taken into account as we fill these positions.
all right, Scott, somebody like you could be in that category.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, are you looking for somebody with like urban forestry or tree production or tree expert?
Well, that would be lovely, but we don't have to.
Yeah, okay.
It just so happens that our previous people have done that, but that's not absolute necessary.
Okay.
But-
And either live or work in the city of Cincinnati.
That's true.
Okay.
The only persons of us that have to live here are Paul and myself, because we represent community.
Mhm.
And so we have to live in community, have to live in the communities. So, but other than that, you don't have to live in the city. Reno does. No, you don't. Is College Hill part of us? Yes, it's North College Hill that is not. But it doesn't have to be.
I'd like to add that we continue to not be very diverse, and that somebody that represents a diverse population would be a very welcome addition.
Absolutely. Do you have anyone in
Right.
mind?
Maybe.
Okay.
That would be good. We did have a person who we all had on the board for one meeting, and then the person did not call or contact us in any manner. And that was most unfortunate, I felt. That was most unfortunate.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else on that topic, I will, so the other thing that I wanted to bring up are just some of our upcoming events. So our fall relief giveaway is on the 17th of this month, and just a brief recap on that. And we started a partnership with Mad Tree Brewery. They ended up funding about half of the trees that we got this year.
Good.
And also the Cincinnati Parks Foundation had funded the other half. So in that partnership, we agreed that we would do the giveaway at the brewery. So it'll be on the 17th, Saturday from 8 to 4 p.m.
October.
October, yes, ma'am. We put the registration for relief out on a Friday in August, and all the trees were gone by Monday. So 850 trees requested by the community of Cincinnati in less than 3 days. So I think one of the greatest pieces to come out of that is the realization that people want trees.
That's right.
And one of the greatest areas where we do not have an impact in urban forestry is on private property.
Correct.
This is absolutely one of our most important programs that we offer to the community. So in going into next year, I would like to double that number of trees, and with the goal of raising the funds to cover them, because we cannot use city dollars to do so. So if you guys have any ideas as far as fundraising, things of that nature between now and say April of next year, I would like to get all those funds in order to double the number of trees that are given away. So effectively 1,600 trees.
How many?
1,600.
That's ambitious.
Well, at this point, we have a waiting list of, I want to say 300 to 500 people that, you know, got on a Tuesday to register and all the trees were gone. We had to cut back the number of trees that people could get from 4 to 2.
Oh. Mhm.
So in order to spread the planting more diversity around the city, it sounds like MadTree will continue to be a partner in years to come, but in order to meet the funding gap, we'll definitely have to do some fundraising and or write some grants, things of that nature. So just to put that on your radar, and if anyone is wanting to spearhead that endeavor, please let me know.
Does Duke Energy do any more?
Duke does. We didn't apply for the grant this year. I believe there was competition within the Parks Department or within Parks and the foundation for that grant. So
Really?
yeah, so we were asked not to apply for it this year. What's nice about going outside of the Duke grant is that we can plant in the backyard,
That's true.
which I think is one of the greatest selling points that made the trees go so fast this year.
And that's been a sticking point for many, many years, that it had to be within sight of the street. And some people don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
I know most of my property is in the back of my house, as well as my property without any utilities. So
oh yeah.
it definitely opens up a lot more space, and that's the goal, right? To plant out the city where trees are needed most.
Correct.
Is that a mandate? I'm not sure. Is that a mandate, a legal mandate? Is that written that we have to plant them in view of the street?
So I believe it was a condition of the Duke Energy grant.
I think it was,
Yes.
but it's not like civic law.
No, ma'am.
I didn't think it was. We never have.
No, these are privately funded trees. It's not municipal dollars, so
Okay,
there's no mandate as to where they can be planted.
that would be excellent. Any further discussion? Oh,
Where is MadTree?
It is in Oakley off
Yeah.
of Madison.
right. You can see it when you go by on Madison Road.
So we'll be hanging out, giving out trees throughout that day, and then we'll probably be recreating at the brewery afterwards. So if you can't, I'm sorry,
What were the hours for that again?
8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so we're doing the giveaway much as we did last year. We have people coming 30 at a time in a half an hour shifts to keep them cycling through. We have over 600 people picking up trees that day. We do have a lot of volunteer help from MadTree employees. So it's a pretty neat partnership. MadTree also created these tags, all the trees that go on like a branch. And it tells you planting instructions and the first 2 years of care instructions,
Oh, how clever.
as well as a link to our website and their website, just to further explain and explore urban forestry in general. So,
I know for a fact, that they've hired on somebody that's very good with sustainability, and their commitment to it is significant for the future.
yeah,
Really?
yeah, one of the greatest things that have come out of it, beyond the ability to expand our impact and relief, is just the partnership in and of itself. Having their audiovisual, their space to do presentations and talk about urban forestry to kind of rally troops. That was the original intent in this partnership. Then COVID hit, obviously. So with that being said, that's something I definitely foresee moving forward is a very kind of ingrained partnership. Their mission and vision is absolutely aligned with the mission and vision of the park board. So it's hands down one of the best opportunities. Cool logo too.
What did you say?
They have a really cool logo too. And then staying on the thread of MadTree, we also got a grant through the Arbor Day Foundation. MadTree had a pass-through grant of $15,000, where communities could basically apply and state the need for a project, and then MadTree representatives got to choose whatever project they wanted to fund. So we proposed doing a mass planting in the West End neighborhood, which is one of our hottest neighborhoods, has one of our lowest tree canopy, has a marginalized community that is highly impacted by I-75 and the expressway. So PM 2.5, heat island, stormwater, it met all the criteria. So we built out a plan to install 107 trees from Liberty down through Cutter.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
and so we'll basically be identifying every potential planting site within that area, and we'll be planting it out on October 7th with Mad Tree volunteers. So, I'm sorry, October 27th. So that'll be a really great success story for years to come. Also in that grant, I wrote in a 2-year maintenance plan. So rather than just planting and walking away, I built in 2 years of watering, post-tree planting care. So
for this company to do.
I wrote it into the grant. The company has not been identified yet.
Okay, but they're to do the watering and that, not us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So a lot of the trees are planted. There are a good bulk of trees, about 30 trees that will be planted on recreation property
Oh, yeah.
at the Laurel Playground. They don't have the staff or the
Oh, no.
equipment to take care of that many trees. So that was an important aspect of planting on recreation property. In planning for this project, I met with Dan Jones, the engineer for recreation, and identified several more properties just within that Weston community that also have the same needs as far as PM 2.5, heat island, stormwater. Identified all the planting sites through there, got them approved through his department. And so we basically have plans ready to go for projects into the near future. It's just, as grants come along, as opportunities come along, it's just kind of a plug and play.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You lost any trees due to the soccer stadium thing?
Not to my knowledge. I know there are some trees along Central
There
Avenue that are in the median that historically do not do well because of the fact that the
thing is right there.
the soil
Yeah.
depth is not very great there.
It's just like a foot or two. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not good at all.
So I've not seen the development plan as far as the landscape plan for that project yet. I know Robin Hunt has been working with their folks. So as that comes along, if you guys are interested in seeing that, I'm happy to share.
I just wondered because I'm down there some. Well, do you have more? You've been very busy, lady.
That's all for the report piece.
Recap of assessment proceedings.
Okay. So our last meeting was in March. Since then, there were 3 other ordinances that had to go through the council to get the assessment passed. The first was just determining what the linear footage cost was going to be.
Okay.
At our last meeting, we were directed by the mayor to look at increasing the assessment amount.
Yeah.
Soon after, within weeks, COVID hit and we were just kind of spun into this pandemic. So we decided to stick with the 21 cents per linear foot as we had in the past 2 years. So that passed, and then we put the notice out to the public. We received 2 objections to the assessment.
Okay.
One was in Walnut Hills, and that particular objection was just a resident who did not fully understand the purpose of the assessment. He thought it was a new tax. Come to find out, he had been paying it for years. He was just taking the opportunity to review his tax bill and objected. So the second objection was definitely a more detailed analysis. So this property, actually a group of about 50 parcels were in South Fairmont off of Paper Alleys. This gentleman had just purchased these properties in the past 6 months and objected to being assessed along paper streets.
Oh, okay.
And so that was taken before the equalization board. The other objection that he had was that there is a provision in the Ohio Revised Code that oversees the assessment process that a property owner should not have to pay the assessment if the assessment amount totals over a 5-year period. If the assessment amount is more than the value of the property, then the assessment amount has to be curtailed to meet that value.
Was that in this case true?
That was in this case true.
Oh, interesting.
So the properties there, some of them had $0 value. Some of them were $100 for a 3-acre lot.
$0 value. Is this paper streets and paper sidewalks and things?
So this is a parcelized area, yes, that is along paper streets.
Right.
So the equalization board decided to, basically, what they found is that over the past 5 years, this individual had been overcharged. And so for the next 5 years, he would basically pay $0 on those parcels in order to get him
Interest rate, yeah.
straight, yeah. So that was a very interesting one. I talked to Dave Gamstetter. He had never, in his 30 years of managing the program, had never come against an objection like that.
I was gonna say, I don't remember one.
Our law department, no, this is all new to them. So it was very interesting, and
So law concurred with the owner.
so law represents the equalization board
Correct.
themselves. So law advised the outcome that the equalization board recommended to the mayor and council.
Will this man, if he continues to own this property, ever pay?
Yes, so within 5 years, he will be paid a certain percentage. In 5 years, he will be set equal. And then from there moving forward, he will have to pay a certain percentage of that property value, up to not to exceed 33.3%.
That's interesting.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
There is a paper street that runs literally on the bridge over I-71. I happen to know about it.
Yeah, there are parcels all under I-75.
I mean, they don't exist.
They exist.
I mean,
They are
well, the street
parcelized.
doesn't exist. It's on the bridge over I-75.
So, you know, this is something we've been deep in as Matt DeBona builds out the assessment line and has, you know, effectively made an urban forestry assessment that is transparent, reliable, and repeatable. So proceeding the equalization board approval, the council approved their recommendation, the council approved the levy. Matt went through with a fine tooth comb, got the margin of error down to a ½ foot for the assessment. So more accurate than I think it's ever been. Sent that off to the auditor. So now they have all of our information and we're good for 2021. So in your packet, we included a breakdown of the budget for 2021. It's roughly 2.4 million.
At the end of the September report.
Okay. So it's at the end of the September report, if you're interested in looking a little deeper. So with that, you can see the total revenue from private property, the total revenue from public property, and the cost for street intersections. So public property and street intersections is a bill that goes to the city to pay. And then the private property will be billed out in December.
Oh, I'm not finding it, but I've got too many.
So any questions on that?
I thought I had that. Oh, no, I did.
I may have left that.
So our total is going to be 2 million, 2.5 million.
Mhm.
All right. I do have a question about these paper streets, and sometimes they are forgiven. I know that. when they don't exist. Like this one that goes over the center of the bridge over I-71. Surely they don't still show on maps.
They do. They are parcelized right of way. That's, we don't have any control over what is parcelized and what's not. Right of way is defined by, basically the way that the city's drawn by the county engineer, I'm sure in partnership with
But years ago,
engineering. So
50 years
we
ago.
made the call whenever we were drawing out where the assessment line, where we assessed all the parcels that were underneath of I-75 and 71, we didn't include because that was our recommendation from law. So we ran everything by law. But if you have a paper alley that's running, for example, up through these woods, that is assessed because those properties are owned by somebody. And if a tree falls out of the paper street onto your property, then it's our responsibility to care for it.
We've had that actually happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And so each year that these things come up, anytime that an objection comes from a community member, they're objecting to that assessment for that given year. So if someone wants to object to the paper alleys again next year, then we'll have an equalization board, they'll hear it and they'll make their recommendation to council. So, but again, it's for that assessment year.
Very curious.
It's deep, it's deep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, let's proceed onward.
Okay, so the next item I have is the urban tree canopy assessment update. So in the past 2 months, we have selected a company called AppGeo. They are nationally renowned. Scott, you may be familiar with them. They're working with Save a Tree. They are they are a combination of the Vermont University of Vermont Geospatial Industry. So Jarlath, who had worked with us in Northern Kentucky, Save a Tree, who is a northeastern arboricultural company, a large company up there, and then Quantum Spatial, who does the flyover and actually analyzes the information themselves. So we chose them because they had the highest degree of accuracy. The urban canopy assessment this year will be up to 99% accurate. So we spent the past 2 months getting the contract through, kind of the long process of building contracts. And so they've been flying for the past week. We finally, everything has been flown. And so we'll have our first stakeholder meeting within the next week or so. And I guess with this, I wanted to know if anyone on the board wants to sit on the stakeholder committee for the urban tree canopy assessment.
We have had people do this before. And is there anyone who would like to attend that meeting? Mercy, don't everybody jump up at once.
What's the date on that?
There's not a date yet. I'm figuring out who all the stakeholders are and then compiling, getting that information to the contractor, and then they will organize the virtual meeting.
Put me on the list.
Okay.
Reno Rum.
I appreciate it. My life is not my own right now. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the UTC? All right. Okay, so the next thing I have is we spent the end of last year working through a rewrite of the municipal code.
Right.
I had sent that off to the director in January, February, hadn't heard anything back. COVID hit, so I gave it 6 months to give some breather in there. I sent it back to her a couple weeks ago and got some basic feedback that she would like to see built in. The one thing, overall, she was okay with with the edits, but the 2 things she wanted added in were term limits, so that board members will not serve more than 2 consecutive term limits.
That has come and gone, as Reno and I can tell you, that has come and gone. And the last one, the last situation was that, no, there will be no term limits.
So this was something she was very clear on, that she wanted included in the ordinance, is that the board, which effectively reports to her,
Mhm.
has term limits set at no more than 2 consecutive term limits.
Which they would be, they were, a term limit was 3 years.
Yeah.
Does that stay, or do you want the term limit to be anything other than that?
No, the term of your appointment is 4 years, and then your term limits would be no more than 2 consecutive, so no more than 8 years.
No more than 8. At one time, it was 3, and you could serve 6 years. But now she's wishing for 4 years, and the term, your limit would be, now, if that sells, do those of us who are on the board, do we fall into the former or the new?
I don't know.
It's a question.
I don't know the answer to that.
It's a question.
I would imagine we would continue forward until things were built out, and then as terms expire. Because the other issue is that all of the board members term out at the same point. Everyone is appointed and terms out on the same date.
That did not, at one time, that was not true, but that is how it has now worked out too.
Yes, so that we would also need to establish, and this is something that we had all agreed to add in. We would need to establish a rotation of board members, so that we have staggered terms, basically.
As I said, that was technically true, except every, I forget how many years, the arithmetic came up. I think it was every 7 or 8 years it came up so that everybody was at one time. Now, this would be only for the community members, correct? Because people
This would
like Don
be for
Ginley.
anyone who is appointed by the city manager. So yes.
Don, are you appointed by city manager?
No,
I don't think so.
No, I'm on it for the code. The city engineer and director are on it for the code.
That's what I thought. And Caroline was also not
She's
appointed,
representing director of planning, yes.
correct?
and the same with Angie and myself. We are ex officio members.
Well, yeah, you're ex officio. But I'm talking about the other members who represent specific entities.
No, so the 2 community at large, the 2 green industry, and the 2 business representatives.
Would be included in the term limitations.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I couldn't see that the city representatives would be included in that.
No,
Now,
we
they
wouldn't.
frequently wish to move on anyway. But, and I can't think of anyone who served more than that.
Yeah.
Oh, Randall, who was the guy from India? He represented a city. Yeah, yeah, he was delightful.
What was his name?
Oh, he was
I
from,
remember.
he was originally from India, and he would go back to India every 2 years, and he took suitcases full of food, which you can't do now, but he did then.
So with the updates,
That's it.
I would like to engage the board and ask help in maybe researching other city boards to see how this language is structured, to get, so that we're on par with other city manager appointed boards and positions. So if somebody could volunteer to do that, that would be a great help to me as I continue to edit and take the final draft back to the director.
At one time, when we would have our Tree City USA meetings, which we have not had in this quadrant, in the southwest quadrant, we had a considerable amount of, we haven't had Tree City at all this year.
No,
We did last year.
yes.
Well,
Hey, Crystal, it's Don Ginling. If you want to send me your revised language, I'd be glad to review it.
Oh, thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
okay, well, I think we do need some input into your this planning. I mean, I think it's excellent, but I do think that we need to have some representing in some conversations in this, and I'll talk with you more about this later.
And I did express to the director that, you know, we spent 2 months going back and forth through this. We met with the foresters. So all the recommendations that are in here have been approved by the board, are in agreement with the urban forestry program.
Okay.
So this was a thing in addition to the edits that we had made. So what I'll do is I'll absolutely employ Don's review, make some draft edits, send them to Don and send it out to everybody so that you guys can take another opportunity to review this before it goes back to the director for final approval or for the start of the approval process. So the way I foresee this happening is much like the assessment. So the
Okay.
first draft would go to the final draft would go to the director for approval. Then we would have to send it to law.
Right.
Then it would go to the park board once we have a final draft, and then it would have to go to the city council for adoption. So just so that you're aware of what the process is going to be moving forward. That's my understanding of it.
I have a very ticklish question. At one time, for many, many years, one of our board members, usually myself and sometimes someone else also, would attend the park board meetings.
You're more than welcome to attend park board meetings. Mary has also offered to put in a parking space for the park board.
I did have one out there years
Yep.
ago.
She asked if anyone wanted that. At this point, all the park board meetings are virtual. You
Okay.
can come, but it's encouraged for you to watch on YouTube, much like this meeting is. So in the future, whenever we get back into the swing of things and things
If we
become
ever do.
more open, yes, you are absolutely welcome to attend.
All right. Not every time, but sometimes.
Or representative of the board. is
Correct.
happy to- You're always welcome. If you want to have anything on the agenda or you want an
Then
opportunity
you
to
have to
speak,
say, I know.
then you'll have to work with Mary Unterreiner to get on the agenda, do a board report so that they can see it on the
Correct.
front end, and then they'll let you know whether or not, they want you to present, or whether the information that you presented in the board memo, it was good enough for them.
All right.
Um,
Any commentary on that, folks? Well, don't all speak at once, but I do think it's a good thing for them to know us and us to know them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, we've sort of covered bylaws, operating mission, vision, goals. We've sort of.
I do want to dive into this a little bit.
Pardon?
I do want to dive into this one a little bit.
All right.
So I know it has to be boring just coming to a meeting and hearing me report out on all the great work that we're doing, right? So
I don't think so.
honestly, and this was something that I talked to the director about, and that is built into the municipal code, is that this board should have its own operating procedures. I think beyond that, you also should have, your dedicated mission, vision, and specific goals that you're trying to achieve in partnership with the program. So the purpose of the board is to advise the director on how the urban forestry program should be structured, how policy should be built, and various goals that we should be working to obtain. In my year and a half here, my understanding of my role in this is basically to report out to the board what we're doing in urban forestry. I feel like it's a very one-way street, and I would like to see, a vision of the board members to say, you know, this is what we're trying to obtain, and then have the board members reporting out on, you know, what goals we have, how we're working towards them, and how we're meeting those objectives.
Reno, do you want to touch that? That was.
I gotta
not-
turn on the sound. I gotta turn on the sound before I say something. That's what I was doing. Oh yeah, and we did this 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, something like that.
Right.
It would be there about what our goals were then and what the board wanted of the director. But now it's time to do it again. Definitely is. It's time with a new director, well, goals can be very different. Yeah, it'd be good to have that. And those are something we might want to do on a special meeting. One of our regular meetings, possibly, we come prepared to discuss what we all see is a vision of our activities. And if you're being overwhelmed, Crystal, with a lot, you have to figure out how to spread that out.
Yeah. I feel like there's just a lot to do. There's more that can be done. And I feel like one area where we tend to fall flat in our program is just community engagement, community buy-in. You know, we're very, I'd say, tactical and technical. You know, we know the urban forest from a very tactical perspective, and we understand, you know, the individual trees and their needs and those sorts of things, but we do not reach out to or communicate with the public very much. So if that's something that I would definitely like to see the board help with.
In the beginning, it moved away from it. We never worked in any community really that didn't have a board. A community action board might be one or two people, but they were the ones that talked to the neighborhood about where trees were planted and what kind of trees were planted.
And I think beyond that, just being plugged
We
into
kept
it.
moving on past that, but then we got into a program where we just notified homes about when trees were going to be planted. If we're talking about just street trees. And
So I know there are other entities that do have urban forestry related projects going on that we're not tied into at all. Like I know that Scott, the zoo, has a program in Avondale where they're trying to reforest Avondale, correct?
Yes, that part of it.
Yeah, not particularly a formal plan, but you know, when we can, yeah, a lot of trees have been planted.
I know Groundwork Ohio River Valley just received a large grant to do a detailed assessment of canopy and environmental justice throughout the city. We're looking at the historic redlining that has happened in relation to tree canopy and water quality and all these things. I know Keep Cincinnati Beautiful is having tree plantings in various neighborhoods.
They are.
So rather than recreate the wheel, it seems to me that this board should be, you know, at least at the table, you know, kind of touting the mission and vision of the program, so where it all doesn't fall on staff to have to be there. And I think that can be covered through the development of what your mission is. You guys are representatives appointed by the city manager of this community. You know, what do you want to see happen? So beyond that, just having basic bylaws, operating procedures, whose role is it to do what and how are you appointed to that role? Very basic, you know, board mechanisms. I'm happy to produce that. Go ahead.
University of Cincinnati oftentimes is also planning and has programs to plant trees and that. And of course, the biggest sore subject for me always is I-75 and I-71.
Absolutely.
Len Thomas was a part of our board for a long time, and he was, he worked for UC, and he was very active in that field. I will say that at one time, we were a very, very active board, and community councils were much, much stronger. They are not. at this point as strong as there were. And there was about 6 or 7, which were very, very strong. Reynolds community was, my community was, North Avondale was, a very side on the east side was very, Western Hills had some very active communities. And here again, Pleasant Ridge had a pretty good active committee for a long time.
Absolutely. And so that's what I'm getting at, is just the need to tie in, like, where are these community councils at now? What do they want?
Very
How do we get
ineffective.
engaged?
Most of them are very ineffective. Clifton Town Meeting was very, very active at one time.
I know in particular, I've heard from Avondale and Evanston within the past, as soon as the release stuff went out, and they were just like, how do we not know about this? Why was this not communicated
Exactly.
to us?
And those are not active community councils.
They
at
are
all.
very active community councils, and they were coming to us saying, we
Okay.
heard about this through the news. Why didn't you, as the city, inform us that this was an opportunity for our community prior to us hearing about it in the news? And when you know that we need canopy, like you've shown that these two communities are a high need reforestation district, yet you didn't even come to our community council to express this. So I think that there are community councils, I'm sure, change annually as people turn over, as new people move in. But if we're not on that cusp, if we're not out there active with these community councils, then we're missing the ball. We're dropping it. And so to me, I think that is the greatest purpose of this board, is to be representative of the community, to tell me and my foresters what we should be doing, where the wants are, where the needs are, and how we can get active.
Some of the community councils have.
Ma'am, I'll take the slap on the hand. I took the slap on the hand.
Well, this has to do with a lot of sociological factors, and some of our community councils have become non-connected to the community anymore, is what I'm going to say. Okay. And in fact, I was talking to someone the other day that lives 2 houses from me, and she's just done. So that's an unfortunate event.
So Reno, I think I heard you volunteer to draft bylaws and get the process started.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's a good one because he's been around since, well, I know 22 years.
I'll send you an example of what I created in Covington, and maybe you can just kind of cut that up however you see fit.
Say that again, please.
I said I'll send you the Word document of the bylaws I created in Covington right before I left, and I think that'll be a good starting point to kind of launch you.
Okay.
Any questions on this? Because this is kind of, it isn't changing our modus operandi at all. In a way, it's going back to our original.
Re-envisioning.
But on the other hand, you work with what you have at the time. And that had to be the case.
Yeah.
Virtual Academy?
Yeah, so I had Sheila look into this. This came from the city manager's office. There is a civic boards and commissions virtual academy. I'm gonna turn it over to Sheila to give an update on what that is and how you all need to plug in.
So I reached out to Kelly Carr, she's the assistant to the city manager. And she said the academy is not mandatory, but it's highly encouraged by our volunteers and board members. She would like everyone to take 2 classes if you can. They're offered in October, November, December. And it will just help you have a greater sense of our legal obligations, the budget of appropriations are awarded, and regulations that governing city procedures. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me and I will touch base with Kelly if you need help signing up or whatever. But they do highly encourage that you can take at least both classes if you can, if not one.
What is being offered in the class? Well, here it is. This is the page. Understanding the city charter.
They offer each of them, both of them each month. They're a couple hours long. It's just a Zoom meeting like this, wasn't it, Mary?
Yes, it does. I think it's a Zoom meeting. So,
Yeah, but she said it's not mandatory, but they really would like all volunteers for the city to take them if they can. I would like to take them. So everything's on there if you want to log in and sign and register. You can do it from home.
Can I do it from your office? Sheila?
Sure.
Might do that. I'm not sure how that would differ from what I do. I think some of us do really understand some of these things being offered. Don, would there be anything on here you don't already know?
I would doubt it, but it's always a good refresher.
Okay, good answer. Budget development is an interesting subject. Budget development. Well, that's already going to be this week, isn't it? Or next
I
week?
think that's just going over the overall city process and what it takes to get an ordinance through, how the budget works, and this is for all boards of the city. So I think the primary purpose is just update board members on what sunshine laws are and what are the obligations to public meetings and that kind of stuff. And then they just are taking it one step forward to kind of educate board members on some of the city processes.
We have funding that is not in any way tied into the city. We have our own assessment.
it's absolutely tied into the city.
Well,
That's
it is,
approved by
but
council.
we go down and discuss. Well, we did at one time, go down and discuss our assessment. And at one time we went down and had it presented personally to the city. I went down, it seems like annually. But with the new manners of communication, that has not happened that I know of. I haven't been asked to go down, I know that.
Yeah.
Well, so we should sign up for some of these.
So there are 2 different classes. Each class has 3 different timeframes. So you would just register for,
One, is that correct?
there are 2 classes, so you would register for 2 classes, but you would choose one time period in which you want to take the class. So it's either October or December.
I know the hot link that came with the email on the PDF or on the download doesn't work. Is there a way to get that link to register?
Ooh.
The link for this, was it?
Yeah, so Sheila will send that out
Sure.
immediately after this meeting. to
I'll
get you
send
guys.
it to you.
So we need to clarify this. We each need to do something in legal requirements and responsibilities? Or do we need to do every single one of these?
No, so there are 2 classes.
I see
One
that.
is legal requirements and responsibilities. The other is city budget and finance. there are 3 dates that you can choose from to take either one of those classes.
But you don't have to take both of these classes. You just choose
You would
one.
you would take both of the classes. So if you were gonna take, say you wanted to do this class in October, you would take the legal requirements and responsibilities course on October 13th, and then you would take the city budget and finance class on October 16th.
But you don't have to take number 1 and number 2 in legal requirements and responsibilities.
No, those are just different options for dates that you can choose from.
And so you would just choose, but would both of these subjects be carried in any one of these dates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was a confusion for me. Well, does anyone want to say what they want to do, or with whom do we register? Contact Kelly Carr, assistant to the city manager.
So after this meeting, Sheila will send out an updated link so that everyone can get online and register for the class that you wish to take. If you do not have the ability to get online, just coordinate with Sheila and she can help you get set up.
I don't, because it's
We
a
can set-
Syrian shrine and I don't do that to Shriners.
We can, we have laptops at the office that you can come and use.
But if I wanted to, I can come to your office.
Yeah, we'll get you set up, Paul.
Why don't we both do that?
Yeah.
You can do it together.
do it together.
Very cozy, yes. Tuesday. Oi, oi, oi. Good boy, is that the second or third Tuesday? That's the second Tuesday. Okay, I can handle the second Tuesdays. Third ones. I'm not here. Well, park board restructuring.
Yeah, so with the onset of COVID, the impacts to the budget, the
Yeah.
park board has been going through a detailed analysis of all the positions. And is basically going through a period of restructuring. So Jenny Mobley was recently appointed as the deputy director. She was the central district division. Yeah, the central district division manager prior to her appointment as the deputy director. She will be taking over all of park operations, so overseeing all of the parks throughout the system. They are also creating, which will come with the board meeting next week. They will be creating the Natural Resource Management Division. So with that approval,
We already had it.
no, there's a Natural Resource Management section under operations currently.
Correct.
So this would create the Natural Resource Management Division.
Okay.
Under it would be urban forestry, land management, and conservation, which are currently under it, as well as green space and
Okay.
explore nature. So in that role, I will be on the agenda next week to be promoted to division manager of the Natural Resource Management Division. And I just wanted to inform you guys that this was taking place. It hasn't been built out yet. So by our next meeting, I will come with a more detailed breakdown of exactly how this is going to impact urban forestry and what the plan is moving forward.
At one point, green space was included
Yes.
in that. I'm very pleased to see that that is true.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It sounds like it's going to be, I'm really excited to get started. It's going to be a great team. To have explored nature under natural resources is huge. To have, you know, our environmental arm, who is
Yeah.
basically communicating the value of our natural resources under the Natural Resource Management Division, and the inauguration of a new division for the park board. This is a big step in the right direction, I would say.
In one case, it's full circle again.
Potentially. Well, I think in the past, you know, natural resources came about in the early 90s,
Yeah.
whenever the land management section was created. Since then, you know, we've slowly built and built and built. you know, we have a lot of tasks that, you know, require us to, you know, flow between the political sphere,
Oh, yeah.
through all departments in the city, just with urban forestry. We make a huge impact right in the right of way with our green space team, and then having our land management team that is managing all of the park trees. So having these under one umbrella is going to be fantastic.
Will the park department be involved in this itself? There's always been
Yeah,
it's always, they have a lot of land and they should be included in that.
The park department?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be a division of the department. Right, so this would be the Natural Resource Management Division of the Cincinnati Park Board.
And
So
they-
currently, we're under its operation, we're under operations, and then we're the Natural Resource Management section. So this would be, you have operations in the Natural Resource Management Division directly under the director. So in the role as division manager, I would report directly to the director.
to some degree, even though it wasn't official, that sort of happened anyway for a while
I think it's a natural move. I think there's a lot of instances where, you know, I mean, just with the urban forestry assessment,
there.
you know, we're working directly with the mayor and council members.
Right.
And, you know, having 4 ordinances that go through council, it's a very,
Poor thing.
They do that all the time. They don't see the window.
Awful clean window.
yeah. So I will have more information on how that build out looks at our next meeting on the 12th. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that this is something that is taking place, so that if you guys hear about it at our next board meeting, you kind of have a heads up.
Crystal, so the setup would be the park board, and then there would be natural resources, which would include urban forestry, explore nature, green space, and land management. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir.
And then what would the other divisions be?
Yeah.
So there's a division of operations which oversees east, west, and central districts and parks. So that's all the park maintenance.
Right.
And then there is the business services division, which oversees PR, outreach, those sorts of things.
Okay.
There's the planning division. And then there is the finance division and HR division.
Thank you. That helps kind of put it in a visual.
Which one will Chrome be under?
Chrome will still be
Operations?
under operations.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's always seemed to me a problem where you have, we plant trees and then the park board plants itself, its own trees in the park. I always thought it should be work almost as one.
That needs to be clarified. Will we be in any way connected with the planting of trees in the parks?
Yeah.
Because that's a budget thing that just would explode.
I've always had a problem with recreation, parks and recreation.
Parks and Rec.
Why do they plant trees and we plant trees? Why
So-
can't it all be combined as one? And it doesn't
In
make
smaller
sense.
towns, that is all one unit. But it has not, and I don't know from Cleveland.
So recreation is its own department. They have their own board. And the combination of parks and recreation is well above my pay grade.
Okay.
That's good. I think that's more of a philosophical question and, you know, kind of exists.
Maybe we'll get all of this straightened out and then add that later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Will recreation be included in that?
No, sir.
No.
They are their own department.
Well, see, that's the problem. That's been my problem for years and years.
Smaller towns do, but I don't know what Cleveland does. And it would be the only city commensurate. They're larger than we are, but they wouldn't, I don't know what their plan is, or I don't know from Columbus.
And it may be something, I mean, you go as the urban forestry board, you're here to advise the director. So again, if there's anything that you wish to take to the director, the recommendation.
And it might not be a good thing.
Should
You
have-
might lose a whole lot of control of this, you know that?
I'm not sure.
Maybe we should Leslie Big Dog's lie. City forest credit explanation, and that was this, wasn't it?
No.
No?
So in the Green Cincinnati plan that was developed in 2018,
Right.
there is a goal to develop a Cincinnati carbon fund / offset program.
Carbon fund offset, yes, yes.
So if you're not familiar with the Green Cincinnati plan, there's a whole chapter dedicated to natural solutions for climate change, and urban forestry and land management are definitely built into that framework. So this was one of the goals in order to create a carbon fund that we could use to plant trees on private property, much like we do with relief.
Yeah.
So a fund outside of 792, a fund outside of urban forestry. So there's been a small committee that has come together. It is myself and Matt DeBona in our office, Dave Gamstetter,
Good.
the Office of Environmental Sustainability. Oh, yes.
That's, yeah, oh, yeah.
So Ollie and Larry Frank Falcon,
Oh, yeah.
and then a master's student who did her capstone project on the analysis of development of carbon funds for municipalities. So we've met a handful of times. We started meeting, I believe, in July. And at this point, the plan is to engage the foundation to run a carbon fund program through the foundation. The one mechanism that we found that seems to be the most organized carbon fund in the United States is this city forest credit program. So we are in the very preliminary steps of reviewing the requirements for the city forest credits and building out what that vision, what that plan is going to be. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention that this is something that's taking place. In the last meeting, they did ask about the Urban Forestry Advisory Board and what the capacity was, and if there's anyone on the board that should be a stakeholder in these discussions. So I wanted to extend that offer to you all as well. If anyone would like to sit on this committee to learn more about and to help build out the development of the Cincinnati Carbon Fund, I open it up to you.
I am very, very interested in this. My time right now is extremely limited. I've said nothing about this. Sheila? My husband was supposed to have died a year ago. He didn't. But we're both continuing our activities with a great deal of making it work. Okay? So, and I never know from one day to the next. I mean, I'm here this morning, right? And I never know from one day to the next. But so far, so good. But I have no idea if I mean, I would love to serve on that board, and I would try to get there when I can. Is there anyone who is extremely interested in either one of these boards?
It's the same.
It's literally the same board, I assume.
Yeah, it's just basically at this point, it is a group of stakeholders.
Yeah.
And so if there was a representative of the Urban Forestry Advisory Board that would like to sit on that group of stakeholders, the invite has been extended.
Learn the role of city, understand the city's budget development.
That's something different.
Crystal, I may be interested in some of these things, but I kind of feel like I want to just hold off, get my feet under me, kind of understand the board, get appointed officially. And, and then, maybe consult with you on some of these things and I just want to get a feel for things a little bit more before I start stepping up on a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
We don't have to have, excuse me for asking, but we don't have to have an assigned person. Could any one of us go to any one of these meetings just because we are curious?
That is a completely separate topic.
Excuse me?
That is the virtual academy training that you're looking at there. So what I'm speaking to is the city forest credit, the Cincinnati Carbon Fund Development.
Do we have a page on that?
No, ma'am, it's just an item on the agenda,
Okay.
the last item.
Oh, okay.
So absolutely, Scott, and if you have any questions about anything that we've talked today, if you want to have an offline phone call, I'm happy to discuss further.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's a good idea, maybe in a couple weeks.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, and so I will just report out on that at our next board meeting to let you know how it's gone along.
I am kind of interested in these civic boards and commissions. We sort of, at least some of us did understand them at one time, but everything evolves. And I certainly got involved once with the city budget's development. And wangled a deal. I'm not a wangler, but the person on city council who took me out in the hall and said, will you give up your stance on something if I can give you $500,000 to plant all the trees on 3rd Street? And I said, I'm not gonna argue with $500,000. Now, you couldn't do it in today's world. This was when all the trees on 3rd Street went. I said, okay, I'll give it up. But you're promising? And he said, I'm promising. So all the trees on 3rd Street came about through a little Mickey Mouse. But I had to give up whatever was my original goal. But this is somewhat different from that.
Yep, that's all I have for this meeting.
Sometimes I feel like a fossil. Okay, is there anything further? And this has been a somewhat more disjointed meeting than I normally like to hold, but we haven't met forever. And things have changed. People have rotated in and out of first of all, the board, and then in and out of the offices that are paid positions. And I'm sorry, I don't know these persons at all. I've never met the new director. I'd like to. I think, Reno, you and I need to get back to our monthly meetings with the director. Don't you think so?
At least a couple times a year. Yes, at least once a month.
I think you and I have gone through 3 directors or 4 now. And one of them wanted every month. And sometimes we didn't have anything to say. And we would say, well, we just come in to say hello and goodbye. But I think it meant for a very good understanding of whatever our position was at that time or is. So if any of you have any thoughts on that matter, I'd like to entertain you. Any problem with that, city employees? That we meet with the director?
City employee?
That's fine with me.
Okay, well, I mean, they could have some objection and this is the place to have that conversation. And feel free to join us. Anybody have anything more?
No.
Reno?
Congratulations, Crystal. It's good to see the group back together again. That's what I have.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Don't all speak at once. Okay,
Go get back the other one.
but
It's good to get back together.
it really is. And I look forward to getting to know some of you that I don't know very well at all, getting to know you much, much better. And we can move forward, I think, with all these good ideas and modify any that we think we need to. So,
Motion to adjourn.
motion adjourn. Motion to
So long,
adjourn.
everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing all of you when we can finally see all of you.